Yo, what's up guys, it's Talon. So today I'm going to be talking to you guys about the main things you need to do to reach your new peak in the next season. Basically just the things you need to improve on and focus on in order to really climb. These tips have allowed me to get 2 top 10 on the server 4 seasons in a row, 3 of which I played autofill. This last season played more so mid and jungle, but consistently been able to do that with these tips, consistently helped other people through coaching or through my videos to help them also climb. I've had 10 people that I've coached within the last 2 or 3 seasons, all reaching their new peak of Challenger this season, as well as one hitting their new peak of Sovereign this season, many others hitting Grandmaster, Master, etc. So these have worked for a lot of different people overall. So getting right into it, the first really big thing is just having good mental. Like, it's very straightforward. I know that some people think it's like, you know, overrated focusing on mental, then in reality, oh, it's just my teammates' fault, it's whatever, it's this or that. But the reality is, if you're focusing on your own gameplay, you're having good mental, you're not running your teammates down, you're actually focused just on yourself and playing the best that you can every game, you're not going to be worried about your teammates, you're not going to be getting super tilted every game, and even if you are getting tilted, you're still going to play really well, really consistently. So how are you actually going to make your mental good? Because of course I can tell you, you know, to have good mental, but how does that actually happen? So I have some videos on that to, you know, go into more depth, but basically, a couple things you can do to make your mental a lot better. First is take a break after 2 losses. If you lose 2 games in a row, just take a 5-minute break, take a 10-minute break, go drink some water, go relax. I know I don't follow this because I'm a streamer, so I'm playing constantly, you know, it's like 4 hours straight, but 100% plenty of people I've coached have told me this has been one of the biggest tips for them and has allowed them to keep their mental much better, so I highly recommend that. Other things you can do is having really specific things to focus on will mean that you're not going to be focused on your teammates' mistakes. So challenge yourself to, after a game goes bad, say to yourself, what can I do to win this game though? Like, I'm 10 minutes into the game, my 0-6 Vayne top lane is doing really bad. What is the win condition that we do have? Okay, we still have a fed Orianna. Maybe if that fed Orianna gets to 3 items, we still have a chance to win. I can then, maybe I'm in the Malphite, maybe if I get one good Orianna setup where she lands a 2-man shockwave and kills people, maybe that's going to be a possibility of turning the game around. So I'm going to make everything I do based around the Orianna's gameplay. I'm going to make sure I'm pushing my waves so I can rotate to help Orianna. I'm going to make sure in team fights I'm paying attention to these Zed who might ult onto the Orianna and trying to catch these types of things. Just basically giving yourself really specific things to focus on rather than being worried about your teammates. Now, keep in mind, I understand matchmaking is not great. I understand there's a lot of things that are valid to complain about, and I complain about them too. Don't get me wrong, I'm not perfect. You guys watch my stream, you know that I complain about my teammates as well. It happens. But the reality is you shouldn't be blaming your matchmaking for why you're stuck in the rank you are. You can blame it for a loss or two. You know, for some games, you know, maybe matchmaking is the reason you lost. But in terms of the long run, everyone has to deal with the same matchmaking. So if you are lower ranked than someone else, it's either because they played more games than you or because you aren't as good as them. And obviously we can't control how many games, you know, we can play. We can only just play the amount of games that we're allowed to play. So there's no real reason to focus on these things you can't control. You can't control the teammates you get, can't control the matchmaking system, but you can control your own improvement and your own gameplay and your own decision making in these games, which will lead to more wins 100%. So that is a big thing. Additionally, mute your chat. That helps with the mental as well. We don't need to listen to what the random diamonds top laner who's auto-filled is telling us how to play the game. Listen to me. Trust me, okay? I don't say this to brag, though maybe I do because I like bragging, you know, feeding my own ego, but I've gotten top 10 on the server 4 seasons in a row for a reason, and that's because I don't listen to what idiots tell me. I don't listen to what the idiots in my chat tell me. I don't listen to what the idiots in my in-game chat tell me either. I focus on what I think is correct, and I try to improve on, you know, my own gameplay, be confident in my own decision making, and continue to improve on that, focus on myself. This is 100% the way to go when it comes to climbing, especially in solo queue. Don't let your teammates dictate your decision making. Instead, just focus on making the consistently right play. After that, make sure you have a small champion pool. We don't want to be playing 10, 20 champions a season. It makes it extremely difficult to actually really focus on the mechanics of your champion if you're focusing on playing so many different champions, because it just gets too much. You know, like, if you are playing all these different champions all the time, you never really have the time to get super proficient and learn all the matchups for any one champion. So that's why you really need to stick to, I would say, usually 3 to 4 champions in your main role and then 1 to 2 champions in your auto-filled roles. If you're wondering about champion development, I have a building your champion pool video from about 3 months ago, I believe. And I have a full champion pool overview that I will be giving soon for my road to Sovereign solo queue, only playing mid lane, as well as giving you guys the autofill picks that I'll be picking as well, so you guys will be able to possibly copy my champion pool if you don't want to develop your own, or if you want to learn from my champion pool, that type of thing. but you also have videos, like I said, from my channel that give you an idea of how to develop your own champion pool. But make sure 3 to 4 champions max, really even 2 to 3 for your main role is plenty. Focus on just having, you know, really, really good proficiency and really understanding the matchups on your champions specifically. After that, take advantage of the early season. So how are we going to take advantage of the early season? Early on in the season, it doesn't matter whether or not you win a lot of games, whether you climb or not, because all of the high elo players like myself are going to be in the lower ranks, because that's just how the resets work. I'm going to reset to diamond. You guys probably reset to emerald or, you know, platinum, which means you can match against me. Now, realistically, you're not going to outclimb the sovereigns and the challenger players, most likely, for most of you who are not already sovereign and challenger players. And so what you should be doing instead is using the first month or two, before, especially the first month, I would say, before these players like myself climb really high, to just learn. Don't worry about your rank. Don't worry about spamming games to climb. Worry about learning. Find specific parts of your gameplay to learn or to focus on and just improve on that. Whether it's learning a new champion, learning a new role, figuring out your lane phase specifically, figuring out how to, you know, invade properly, how to path early game, figuring out these specific concepts, finding one concept to focus on at a time, utilizing a week, 2 weeks, a couple days, whatever it is, to really improve on that one aspect. And then once that aspect has become habitual, moving on to the next aspect of gameplay, and so on and so forth, and really hard focusing on that in the early season rather than worrying about winning a bunch of games. And then really, you know, once you get to the middle of the season, a month and a half in, 2 months into the season, then you go into the, okay, now I'm locking in on my champion pool. I've found that these 3 champions are the ones that are working most for me. I'm really going to focus on this specific part of my gameplay. I'm going to really just improve there, but I'm going to focus on actually winning now, you know, once you get into the later parts of the season, whereas early season is about experimenting, learning, improving, and that type of thing. So that's definitely a really important thing to keep in mind. Don't panic if your early season doesn't go super well. I've had plenty of early seasons that don't go well, and then I end up top 10 on the server. So like, it really doesn't matter at the end of the day. Again, those incremental improvements, like I said, find a specific aspect of gameplay to focus on at all points in the season. Just, you know, improve on that for a week, then go on to the next, and so on and so forth. And my channel has plenty of different things, like specific things that you can, you know, watch to figure out what it is that you do want to improve on. So if you're confused on what exactly you should improve on, watch back your own replays, compare them to my gameplay, my videos, that type of thing. And you can definitely find some specific things like that. And then again, time your game spamming properly. So don't spam all the games in the early season. Like I said, spam them later on in the season when it is easier to reach your peak rank because it's later. I wouldn't spam it at the last week of the season, but you know, within the last month and a half of the season, I would say is really a good time to start spamming a lot more. Obviously, depends on the person, right? If you have a bunch of work later in the season and you have, you know, you're on your vacation right now, of course, you know, maybe you have to spam early in the season. So, you know, I get obviously life conflicts with things at times. That's just natural, but that's still an advice I would give you guys if you can possibly do that. And then don't give up on your goal halfway through the season. I will see a lot of people, including myself at times, they'll have some type of goal, whether it's hit challenger, hit sovereign, hit grand, whatever it is. And halfway through the season, they'll stop because they get tilted, they get frustrated, they go on a lose streak, whatever. And then they give up on their goals, and then they just like are like, but I'll do it next season. But I'll do it next season. The amount of times that I hear people say, I'll do it next season is extremely common, and then they end up never doing it. So it's like, you need to just realize the best time to climb is the later parts of the season. So the early season is sometimes going to be frustrating. You're going to go on loss streaks. Everyone does. I've had plenty of loss streaks. Last season, I had a week straight where I was losing every single game. Like every day that I would get on, I would just know I'm going to lose. I just had that feeling, like I could just tell. And eventually, you know, I just started focusing on what I can improve. I started improving, and even though I started improving, I was still losing for a while. And then eventually I went back to winning because I was patient. I continued to focus on what I could improve on, what I could kind of, you know, control myself. And even if it wasn't perfect, we ended up still, again, reaching, you know, rank 9 on the server this season. So just understanding, you know, like a week or two of bad games doesn't mean you should just give up, all that type of thing. And then as well, last kind of important thing to note is just, it's okay to play duo queue if that's what you want to do. I'm going to be playing only solo queue this season to prove to you guys, you know, that it's possible to climb solo queue as well and give you guys an idea of how to climb in solo queue. But there's no reason to not have fun playing with your friends. So if you meet someone who in a game is really good, add them, you know, if someone plays well in your game. Or if you have friends to play with who are pretty good, play with them. Like, don't be ashamed of duo or trio. It makes the game more fun and more enjoyable, and that's really what Wild Rift's about. And it's going to make it easier to climb as well, because the matchmaking system can be frustrating at times, and there's no shame in playing duo or trio. Again, you don't need to, and some people don't like to. That's why, again, I'm going to be doing solo queue only. to help out those who do like solo queue. But just keep that in mind as well. Like playing duo queue or trio queue definitely can be helpful and is fun as well. So you shouldn't be like ashamed of doing that. So yeah, pretty much that's kind of the gist of the video. To reiterate the main points, make sure you're having good mental by doing things like taking a break after 2 losses in a row, muting chat, focusing on your own gameplay rather than others. Try to have a relatively small champion pool, focus on consistency more than anything else. Take advantage of early season to improve rather than trying to, you know, focus too much on the result early on in the season. And then later on in the season, that's where when you're going to really want to spam games. Again, focus on making incremental improvements by finding one specific aspect of gameplay to work on at a time, and really just working on that more than anything else. And then once you become, you know, comfortable with that, you move on to the next thing, and so on and so forth. You could copy my champion pool from my solo queue to Sovereign series that I'll be doing if you want, if that's going to make it easier for you to just, you know, have a specific champion pool. And then don't give up on your goals halfway through. Stick with your goals throughout the entire season, even if things don't look good at certain parts in the season. Just trust me, you know, if you continue to focus on them over the long run, you're going to be glad that you stuck to it rather than giving up. And yeah, that's pretty much it for this video. Just wanted to give you guys some tips on really what to do to climb in the next season. Good luck with reaching your goals in the next season, and I'll see you guys in the next video.